One.
The best podcast in MMA has a name, and it's the 10-8 round podcast. You might not recognize my face, so allow me to refresh your memory. I am Zach from Filthy Philadelphia. That handsome son of a gun on the screen with me is still John Boy, still down in sunny Florida. And we back.
We're back, baby.
In the immortal words of Meek Mill, oh, you thought we were finished? We're back. John Boy, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be back. It's been a hot minute. But man, we came back for the right card. And I'm looking forward to it. How's Philly doing? I heard Philly sports are doing pretty well.
Well, Philly sports are doing well. Philly, the city, is that's a topic for a whole other podcast. But Philly sports are doing great. We got the Fightins. We got the Fightin' Phils taking on the Padres in the NLCS now.
Yep.
Sixers basketball, I believe, tips off tonight. People are touting this season.
NBA tip off tonight. Little shout out there.
The Birds remain undefeated after beating down the Cowgirls. Philly loves that action.
Of course.
And I believe, and I haven't checked, but I think the Flyers might actually still be undefeated, which might be one of the signs of the apocalypse. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's wild.
But we're Philly sports, and I don't want to jump out ahead, but this weekend we got a Philly sports great over there in Abu Dhabi. So, I mean, good time to be a Philly sports fan.
I think so.
Yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. How's life down there? How's life in Florida? What's up?
I can't complain, man. I cannot complain one bit. I'm enjoying every day, man. One step at a time. We got UFC 280 this Saturday. It's a morning card. It's a morning card. FYI. Oh.
There it is. All right, let me calm the nerves.
Little kill cliff.
Yeah, it's a little Kill Cliff CBD. That's the goat right there. Keeps me level. I get excited.
Of course. Go to Kill Cliff. It's where it's at.
Ooh, there we go. That's good stuff. All right, I feel ready now. I feel ready to engage. Yeah, I mean, rumor has it there's some fights this weekend. Yeah,
man, this is. You could make the argument this is the best card of the year. On paper, it sure as hell looks like it. It's one of those ones where you forget certain guys are fighting and you're like, holy shit, he's on the card as well. Main card's going to kick off at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which I'm a fan of. That's something we've always preached here at the 10-8 pod. Nothing like some early action to get your Saturday morning started up.
This card is just, I mean, do we just start at the top? Do we get right into it here?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think we'll start off with the sweet one, the one that everybody's really talking about, the two greatest 155ers on planet Earth currently. Yeah, man, let's get into it.
We got Charles do Bronx Oliveira, 33-8 record, taking on Islam Makhachev at 22-1. This is I'm going to say this. I'm going to start out here. Maybe this is a hot take for the episode. I feel like this is a fight for the soul of MMA. This is truly a good versus evil battle. That's how I feel.
I have an idea of who the A side is on this one, but you can.
I think you do. Let me just say, I believe that Charles Oliveira do Bronx is all that is good and pure in mixed martial arts, and I think is really the soul of what is great about this sport. So I'll say it out here. We've never claimed to be impartial on this podcast. I've never claimed to be impartial.
No.
I'm not impartial. I am rooting heavily for do Bronx. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, that's something I can definitely get behind. We always like to say we don't like to bet with our heart. We don't like to pick with our heart. But this definitely might be one of those fights where we are going to be pulling for Charlie Olives here. I don't know, something about just kind of beating the Russians that everybody thinks are unbeatable is something I kind of can get behind. And everybody loves a good underdog, but it's interesting that he's an underdog in this one, isn't it?
It is. And I was looking before we went live today, 33-8, I really don't think tells the story of Charles Oliveira, aka Chucky Olives, accurately.
Yeah.
This is a guy who the beginning of his career was middling at best. He was a guy who'd get some wins together, he'd take some losses, always a good prospect, but could never seem to really put it together. And then it seems like in the last few years, he underwent a metamorphosis in his career and tapped into something that there's who hasn't he beat other than Islam Makhachev? Who hasn't he beaten at this point in the division? He's beaten every contender. He's taken on every challenge. He's done it in dominant fashion. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about part 2 of the Chucky Olives saga.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, in terms of runs that he's put together, it's absolutely insane. His track record, his resume as of late is second to absolutely nobody, especially not Islam Makhachev. I mean, his resume in the last couple fights isn't overly impressive. But I think we can both agree that these are the top 2 guys for sure at 155.
Completely. I mean, and just to hammer this point home for the listeners, do you want to tell me the last time Chucky Olives lost a fight?
2017.
2017, that's right, to the Irish Dragon,
Paul,
and Saint of Philadelphia, Paul Felder. That, I think, that more than anything really punctuates the rise now of Charles Oliveira. Paul Felder was a great fighter, was a great prospect, and if you were going to say anything about Paul, he was one of the toughest sons of bitches to ever do it in the octagon. But I don't know that Paul was ever a champion caliber in 155, right? I don't know that he was ever the guy that we looked at and were like, he's going to have a strap one day. He's going to be a belt holder. And Oliveira lost that fight, comes back and goes on this run where he beats everybody in the middle, right? From Clay Guida all the way to Flash Gordon, Nick Lentz, and then Kevin Lee. And then it seems like in 2020, he decides to put rubber to the road, beats El Kukui, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, finishes 3 of those 4, 2 submissions and a TKO of Michael Chandler, who had him wounded in the first. That's destiny realized as far as I'm concerned. And of course, now he's taken on Islam Makhachev, aka Khabib 2.0. There's more at stake here than just a belt. I think that the soul of the sport is at stake.
Yeah, I mean, and technically Olives is not defending his belt, right? This is a vacant belt because if I'm not mistaken, he did miss weight in his last outing against Justin Gaethje.
The champ has a name, and it's Charles do Bronx Oliveira.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah, no.
Are you technically correct? Yes. The fans can go back and listen to those episodes where we have very long, very intellectual conversations about that. We were civil for the most part.
Yeah.
But the champ has a name.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, fighters, fans alike definitely acknowledge him as the champion. But from a technicality standpoint, this isn't going to go down as a title defense per se.
It's not. It's a vacant strap
on the resume. So do with that what you will. We already gave away kind of who the favorite is. It is a little bit surprising that Islam Makhachev is minus 195. He's a 2-1 favorite in this spot. Kind of based on the resume that you just gave of Charlie Olives. It's downright impressive. Plus 165, you could take do Bronx here. One thing that I found a little bit interesting in this one is the over 2.5 rounds is plus 135. So it's plus money. So Vegas thinks that this thing's going to get finished under 2.5 rounds.
That's interesting.
Right. Which is a little bit interesting to me because Islam Makhachev went 3 rounds with Drew Dober.
Yup,
He went 4 rounds with Thiago Moises,
he did.
right? And I would say Charlie Olives is a better grappler, than Moises for sure. That's interesting to me.
He also, he also Davi Ramos, it's a decision. Nick Lentz, decision. Chris Wade, decision. So those are all 3-rounders. If you look at, and I'm not gonna discount his abilities here, but if you look at the resume, there's 8 decision victories on Makhachev's resume.
Yeah. And I mean, basically the reason that I point that out is just because I feel like the longer this goes, Oliveira has more ways to end this fight, right? He can do it he's definitely the better striker. I think Islam's going to want to take this to the ground for sure. And we really haven't got to see him fight a legitimate grappler like Oliveira. Oliveira is the last person in the world you want to get in his guard, last person you want to get to the ground with. You saw in his last fights, right? Gaethje dropped him, Chandler dropped him, and they all opted for him to get right back up because the guy is just nasty in his guard, man. He's always attacking. He can hurt you anywhere. He definitely has more ways to win this fight. Islam Makhachev's last loss, 2015, Adriano Martins smoked him, KO'd him early, right? We're going back 7 years. So I don't know how much we can take from that. I think this is going to come down to a strength thing, right? In top control and in the grappling exchanges. I'm team Olives all the way here. I think he could end this fight in a multitude of ways. He could knock him out. He could sub him. I think Islam really only has one path to victory, and that's just mauling him in a grappling position. And I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that to Olives, right? Most submissions in UFC history, 16. Most finishes in UFC history at 19. This is a different quality of opponent, especially at this point in time. I understand the chips are stacked against him in Abu Dhabi, right? The UFC definitely, they definitely know what they're trying to get out of this. I think Islam is kind of the guy they think is going to take this one. This might be a square bet, but I'm going to go with Charlie Olives here.
Yeah, no, listen, doing my best to push my fandom aside.
Yeah.
Try to get that out of there.
Mm-hmm.
My best, in his career, Oliveira has 21 submission victories, right? And that is, to me, Makhachev, they're calling him Khabib 2.0 for a reason, right? He's going to go in there and try to grapple fuck you to death in the way Khabib did, right? The leg riding, the pinned against the cage, the nowhere to go. I think that the best remedy for that in the MMA math, the best remedy for a good grapple fucking is a guy who's got a bottom game like nobody's business. And Oliveira is an incredible submission finisher off his back. He's an incredible transition game player. I mean, he's just got really, really fantastic jiu-jitsu.
And I think too, like that kind of plays into like the Khabib reign, right? At 155, you kind of look down the roster at 155 and there's just not a lot of grapplers at all. And that was kind of something that Khabib exploited. That's why everybody was so enticed by the Tony Ferguson matchup, right? A prime Tony Ferguson, because it was somebody who could fight off his back, somebody who had a strong jiu-jitsu game, not the Tony Ferguson now, it's a different guy. But I think that was kind of the draw. It was like, ooh, the contrasting styles. Oliveira presents something that Islam has definitely never faced before, but it also goes vice versa as well for Olives. There's going to be a lot of questions answered in this one. I think this is the biggest fight of the year. I would say in probably arguably the strongest division in the UFC.
Without a doubt.
The only thing I'll say is Islam Makhachev is coming off of a win against Bobby Green.
He is.
And then the win before that was Dan Hooker.
Yep.
take that. I mean, take what you will with that. That is not a resume that constitutes a title fight in any way, shape, or form.
No, and I've heard the whisperings over the past few weeks is that, look, Islam Makhachev's resume is weak because nobody wants to fucking fight him.
Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't change the fact that it's a weak resume, right? I mean, that might be a good reason that you don't have legit fighters on there, but it doesn't change the fact that Chucky Olives is the biggest caliber opponent he has had yet to date by a lot.
Mm-hmm.
By a lot, right? But it remains to be seen whether or not Makhachev is the best opponent that Chucky Olives has had. And I think that's the interesting question answered. Is the follow-up here is and this was every MMA fan's white whale, right? Was Nurmagomedov, Tony Ferguson, El Kukui.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know now and looking at the way history unraveled, were we all wrong? Were we all hoping for the wrong fight? Was the answer Chucky Olives all along?
I mean, Monday morning quarterbacking it, of course.
Sure.
Of course, right? Just the wear and tear, the tread on the tires of Tony Ferguson. He's just not the same guy. The accumulation of damage has clearly shown he is just he's a shell of who he was. And Charlie Olives is arguably in his prime right now. He's 33 years old. Yeah, man, I think that this is going to be like the perfect contrast in styles, right? Styles make fights. This is going to answer a lot of questions. I've always wanted to see that kind of wrestler grinding output against the serious BJJ guy. And I think this is really the first legitimate BJJ guy at 155 pounds. And we're going to see if it's going to be a contrasting style. Does BJJ beat wrestling here?
Well, it's reminiscent of, and I'm going back a ways here, right? But it's reminiscent of Dan Severn taking on Royce Gracie, which I believe is UFC 2. So I'm going back to 94, I believe, right? And if you're looking for an interesting homework assignment, you listeners out there, go back and watch that one. Dan Severn, who outweighed Royce Gracie at the time, probably by 60 pounds. Don't quote me on that, but it was a lot. Absolutely wrestle fucked Royce for a while. And he wrestle fucked him, but Royce was a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Dan Severn got submitted. So there is a historical precedence to say that Chucky Olives would be a rightful favorite here, getting outside of my personal belief that Charles Oliveira is one of the nicest guys in MMA. And if you're a longtime fan of the show, you know that I've met Charles Oliveira. I have his signature somewhere on this hat. I believe it is right there. Show that for the fans. That's Chucky Olive's signature. Truly a fantastic human being. Couldn't be happier to meet fans. So I'm on a personal note, big Chucky Olives guy. On an MMA math note, we've got historical precedents and math on our side to justify our position.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree, right? I mean, Islam Makhachev he's a different breed of wrestler.
He is.
He comes from probably the best camp you could be in, especially with the style that he has. He's training with the best guys in the world. Obviously, he is, the protege to Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is arguably in GOAT contention. He's one of those guys that's kind of always just in the conversation. So that his quality of opponent is top of the line. I've seen a lot of people out of the camp saying that Islam Makhachev is just as good, if not better, of a wrestler as Khabib. That's what they're saying. I don't know, if this is recency bias where they're trying to blow him up. So the only thing is I'm not going to go off of his camp and his coaches. I just think the longer that this goes, the better for Oliveira. I just think he can capitalize and end the fight at really any point in time. I don't know if Islam can do that. I don't. It could be one of those ones where he just makes it look really easy, but I just don't think he's gonna. Something is telling me Oliveira is gonna pose some issues for him here, and I hope I'm right. I really do.
I hope you're right too. Yeah, and no, look, your point is well taken. The Nurmagomedovs, that camp, they're not just wrestlers. I mean, they're combat sambo fighters, which is just it's totally different breed of grappling. Those sambo guys are, they are something else as far as grappling goes. But I hope you're right. I could say more, but what more could I say?
Yeah, there's some other fights on this card, but I think it's a consensus Charlie Olives pick here at the 10-8 round.
Yeah, 10-8 round is behind our boy.
All right. Next in the pecking order.
You want to get into Aljo, Aljamain Sterling with a 21-3 record, taking on TJ, the Redemption Dillashaw.
This is an interesting one.
This is an interesting one.
This is really the Dillashaw redemption fight, right?
It is. This is as close to true redemption as we'll ever get.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's putting all of his eggs in this basket. I think he really, really needs this fight for his entire legacy. I thought he lost the Sandhagen fight. I'll be honest with you. I did think he lost his last fight. Could have went either way. It's not a robbery by any means. Sterling coming off of a dub against Petr Yan. Good win. I thought that was another one that could have went either way. So this is an interesting matchup, right?
This is an extremely, extremely interesting matchup.
Do you have an idea of the favorite in this one?
I'm gonna guess that there's a champion's bias giving the favorite to Aljo.
Aljo is a -180 favorite. Dillashaw sitting at +150. This is a title fight, so it's going to be a nice 5-rounder. Is this the tale of D1 wrestling versus D2 wrestling?
It absolutely could be.
Mm-hmm.
It absolutely could be. I don't, look, there's no denying that Aljo was dominant in his last performance over Petr Yan. Petr Yan wore Aljo like a backpack for most of that fight. I don't know though, man. Something about Dillashaw. I mean, he's just, if I can borrow the pop culture phrase, Dillashaw's just got that dog in him. He's just a scrappy, tough dude. And he, to me, if we go back to Yan Sterling 1, where before an illegal knee, Petr Yan looked to be pulling ahead of Aljamain Sterling.
Yep.
That to me was emblematic of a TJ Dillashaw performance, right? Just tough, grinding, hard pace, hard strikes. I don't know. What's your lean on this? Because I'm kind of leaning Dillashaw.
Yeah, I mean, this one's a little bit more straightforward because Aljo is just going to go for the wrestling, right? And yep. Dillashaw is known to actually have some of the best MMA wrestling. Two different things, right? This isn't a wrestling match. There's going to be strikes involved, and it's just a different approach, a different setup for shots. And TJ Dillashaw has been he's just been absolutely phenomenal from a wrestling standpoint in the ring. He's not somebody who gets taken down a lot. He's somebody who shoots his own takedowns. It's really going to come down if he can negate Sterling's wrestling game. And at +150, right? Vegas over 4.5 rounds is -200. So they think that this one's going to go to decision here. If Dillashaw can negate the wrestling, which I think he's going to be able to do better than some of the past opponents that Sterling's had, I think he's going to give Sterling some issues here. I really do. I don't think Sterling's that great on the feet. He's going to have a longer reach. He's going to be more active early. But Dillashaw just has a plethora of more striking options. He's just a more well-rounded, overall better rounded fighter than Sterling. I couldn't bet an Aljamain Sterling ticket at -180. So I lean to Dillashaw here just based on value alone.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I got to tell you, I'm also tempted to look at that over under a little bit more.
Yeah, over 4.5 minus 200, 2-1. You think this gets done inside the distance?
I think this could get done inside the distance. I think if this is a Dillashaw night, I think Dillashaw could get it done inside the distance.
What, catches him with something?
I think he could catch him with something. Maybe he smells a little blood in the water. Maybe he catches Aljo looking. Aljo's looking for that takedown. Dillashaw gets inside, peppers him up with some money strikes, and I could see this getting done inside the distance.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Vegas a little bit on the over. I think it's gonna either be Aljo backpacking you and controlling the grappling positions, or it's gonna be TJ Dillashaw keeping it on the feet and just edging him out on strikes. That would be kind of my take, kind of how I see this going. Dillashaw has way more to lose here. He looks motivated. The pictures of him surfacing on the internet where he just looks absolutely yoked. I'm going to go with Dillashaw here. I don't love it. But I'm going to take the dog money in the first two fights on this card.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think dogs might just be barking here.
Yeah, man, it looks like that could be the case. For the next fight we're going to get into, I don't know if that's the case, but you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Let's talk about it. Once Aljo, once a title hopeful, Petr Yan, taking on the Sugar Show, Sean O'Malley. Petr Yan with a 16-3 record, Sean O'Malley with a 15-1 record. Do you want me to say who I think the favorite is? Do we want to keep that charade alive here?
Yeah, I mean, you can shoot. This is one of the more obvious ones, but yeah, definitely take a stab at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one. I do the MMA math? How do I work out in my mind who the favorite is? I don't know. I guess I'll take a shot in the dark and say, is it Petr Yan?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, it is. It's Petr Yan, right? Because this is possible criminal homicide. Go on.
You see, he opened up as a much bigger favorite. He was like minus 400, minus 450 territory. Since then, it's been bet down a little bit by the general public. He's at minus 270 right now, which is a price tag that I think I could get behind. Sean O'Malley plus 220. Obviously, he's the more fan favorite fighter. He's more of the casual UFC fighter, right? Everybody knows who Sean O'Malley is. He has the name recognition, so therefore the public money should come on him, right? He's the full send. He's a full send sponsored fighter. He definitely has the publicity for it. But this is a tale of too much too soon. In my humble opinion, I don't know if this was the right fight to make. I know when this fight got announced, we both were like, whoa. They are throwing him into the deep end here. Do you have a take on who you think wins this fight and how?
Yeah, Petr Yan by however the hell he wants. I cannot. First of all, let me rant for a minute here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rant for a minute here because I think I know what's fucking the money up on this fight.
Okay.
And what I think is fucking the money up on this fight is people like Dana White, who were saying that this could be Sugar Sean O'Malley's Conor McGregor moment. First of all, what? No, it's not. I don't think he has the resume, the background, or the pedigree that McGregor had before he knocked out Jose Aldo. That's one.
And one thing I want to say really quickly too, Conor McGregor was never knocked out cold either before the Jose Aldo fight.
Right. Yeah.
People forget Chito Vera slept Sean O'Malley.
Starched him.
Slept him.
Starched him.
Yes, people like to forget that fight ever happened. So that did happen. We watched that in person. That is a real thing that occurred in the UFC. But continue.
I cannot figure out why he has this fan name recognition, right? I mean, first of all, I have to imagine you'd be high to say that this is a Conor McGregor moment, since neither his resume, his victories, his record, nor his persona seem to match that of Conor McGregor. I can't figure out what's pushing the fan love of the Sugar Show. I like Sean O'Malley well enough. I think he's fun to watch. I
do
like
too.
the cornrows, but I hearken back to I believe it was International Fight Week after the no contest against Pedro Munoz. Triple C, the king of the cringe, absolutely sunned Sean O'Malley at Sean's own post-fight interview, interrupted the interview, WWF The Rock style, and sunned him. Absolutely sunned him. I've never seen the bitch come out in somebody so fast as I did in Sean O'Malley watching Triple C just destroy his life verbally with Megan O'Leary holding a microphone in his face. That man had zero retort. He had zero comeback. So what is it about this man that the fans are going absolutely nuts for? Is there an enclave of fans in Helena, Montana that we don't know about? Are dudes who stream video games driving the MMA market that much? Are there that many people with pink cornrows out there? I don't get it. What? Help me, John Boy. Help me understand.
Well, I mean, he has those, he has those relatable things that people get, right? He smokes weed. He's got the tattoos. He plays video games. He has a successful podcast. His knockouts are as flashy as can be, right? He's one of the most fun people to watch because every time he gets in there, it's either he's going to finish somebody in spectacular fashion or he's going to get finished. In this case, I think he's going to get finished. But I mean, my one way that I would approach this fight is Petr Yan is not Chris Moutinho. Petr Yan is not Eddie Wineland. He is not Pedro Munoz, for that fact. I don't even know why Sean O'Malley thought he won the Munoz fight, because I thought that first round was way closer than people have made it out to be. This has always been a concern of mine with O'Malley, is the Liz Frank surgery. And that ankle seems to be very susceptible to damage. Even when he throws it and somebody checks the leg kick, it's like one of those things where you kind of get like a dead leg and you kind of can't walk on it and the nerve endings become numb. And it's something that's hampered him in the past. You've seen it even in fights that he's coasting in. The one thing that he does have an advantage of is that it is a 3-round fight. So I do think he's going to have the speed advantage early. I do think that, but as this thing goes on, I just don't think he has the durability to hang with Yan. Jan's been able to hang with lengthy guys. I mean, he went 5 rounds with Corey Sandhagen and he beat him pretty handily.
Yeah,
and I was biased in that fight. I love Corey Sandhagen. He's probably one of my favorite guys in the division. And Yan passed with flying colors on that one. I think O'Malley brings kind of a similar style that Sandhagen does, kind of lengthy, getting in and out, picking your strikes. I think Yan absolutely steamrolls him here. I just think the quality of competition is too wide. I actually think minus 270 is a solid line. Over 2.5 is minus 230. So Vegas thinks this one's going to get out of 2.5 rounds, which I find very, very interesting. Under 2.5 is plus 170. Vegas thinks it's going to go to decision. I think you could capitalize here. I'm going to go Petr Yan. I'm going to go inside the distance. I think he could catch him with something. I think that leg's going to be hampered early on. I'm just going with durability and an absolutely crazy resume comparison. I mean, they're not even close, the quality of competition. So for those reasons, it's going to be the first favorite pick of the card.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget either that, Petr Yan has a knockout victory over Jose Aldo.
Mm-hmm. Round 3, right?
Round 5.
Oh, see, that did go a little wide. That's the thing. That's the only argument you could make for O'Malley is if he can just stay at range for 15 minutes. Right? That would be that would be his only path to victory. And then that kind of looks it kind of looks like Vegas thinks that as well, right? The over 2.5 minus 230. That's his only path to victory, right? He can't, I don't think he sleeps Jan. There's no way.
No. No, if he slept Jan, he'd be the first person to sleep Jan.
Exactly.
Jan has lost 2 decisions and 1 disqualification.
And his decision loss was against a super heavy grappler in Sterling.
Yeah.
And then the other one was early in his career again in Bellator.
He lost a split decision to Magomedov in ACB, and then he actually avenged that loss and won a unanimous 5-round decision 2 years later, or a year later.
Magomedov is currently in Bellator. That's what that's what I meant to say. But yeah, no, I mean, another legit guy though, like a super legit guy.
Super legit.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say than just discrepancy in resume. Too much, too fast. Obviously, the UFC and the money is pulling for Sean O'Malley. I mean, he is clearly the A side in terms of revenue streams. That's always something to be weary of. You never like to bet against the UFC losing money, something I don't like to do usually.
That's fair.
But based on just pure MMA math, it's all signs, all roads lead to Petr Yan here.
Yeah, I think that's the fair response, and I agree with you. What's next? You want to talk Benny Darius taking on Matthias Gamro?
Yep, this is an interesting one. Is Beneil Darius not the oldest looking 33-year-old person that you've ever seen?
That man has been 33 for 17 years.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, my number one take going into this fight was going to be, well, Gamrot's the younger side, right? Darius is at the tail end of his career. But then I look it up and it says Darius is only 33 years old, which absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, there's like a 2-year difference between the two.
Yeah, which is just staggering if you actually pull up side-by-side photos of the guys. You have an idea of who the favorite is in this one?
You know, I gotta think it might be Darius.
It's Gamrot.
Is it Gamrot?
It is Gamrot. Gamrot's coming off of a 5-rounder, right, with Arman Tsarukyan, who is, a lot of people have said is the next big thing at 155. He also fought Islam Makhachev, and they had a pretty competitive 3-round fight. I mean, Islam did win, but the grappling exchanges were pretty competitive. Gamrot minus 190, Beneil Darius plus 160. Gamrot's a decent little favorite here. I think Gamrot gets it done.
So, and I agree with you, right? I do. I think that my MMA math would have had me thinking that Darius was the favorite, but I think Gamrot gets it done, and I'm more convinced than ever after watching that Tsarukyan fight, because that was the fight to see who's the next big thing, right? I mean, that's what we said about it before it happened. That's what we said about it after it happened, and I think Gamrot passed it with flying colors. I really do. I mean, I think it was a tough fight, no doubt, but I think he won it handily. 3 rounds to 2, but I had it clearly 3 rounds to 2 for him. So I think he gets it done. Darius is a tough customer, but I like Gamrot here.
Yeah, exactly. I think Arman Tsarukyan's the real deal. Darius is coming off of a win against Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's hard. It sucks to say it, but Tony is he's just an absolute corpse of what he used to be. So you really can't take that win with, you really can't take that much away from it. I think Gamrot's fought the younger up and coming guys. I feel like he's had to go through the fire a little bit more. So for those reasons, I'm going to side with the Polish fighter here, Matthias Gamrot.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, Darius, no doubt about it, tough customer. But losses to, Alex Hernandez, Edson Barbosa, Michael Chiesa. So,
he got slept too, right? Badly in the Barbosa fight with the knee.
he did.
He got
Yeah,
slept.
knee.
He got slept early in the Hernandez fight.
He did.
Gamrot just has more tools. I think he could win the striking exchanges, and I think that they're pretty even in the grappling department. So
yeah, he's been 3 of his 4 losses. He's been slept.
Yeah.
Ramsey Najim slept him back in 2014. For what that's worth now, but still it is a TKO loss. Chiesa choked him out. Yeah, I think Gamrot is the right call here.
Yeah. I agree. Bump it down to the next one.
Do we talk about my hometown hero, Caitlyn Chikagian, known Twitter personality, Amity Harbor's finest.
Yep.
Split decision extraordinaire.
Yeah.
Taking on Mannion Ferro.
Yeah. A lot of people are high on Manon Fiorot. A lot of people think she could be a future contender. I like what I see from her. Super physical, super aggressive, throws strikes well, good grappler. The thing with Caitlyn Chikagian, though, the thing is she kind of lulls you into her style of fight.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like this outside point fight where the two people are just throwing jabs and they're not landing really significant strikes. It's really a point fight.
Yeah.
And Chikagian has a tendency to do that in pretty much all of her fights. You'll look at it in her resume. I don't have the numbers on me, but she's a decision machine.
15, by the way, 15 decisions.
Yeah. And how many wins?
18.
Okay, so there you go. And then I'm sure that all of those finishes were definitely not in the UFC, if she even has a finish in the UFC. You have an idea who the favorite is in this one?
I gotta think it's Manon.
It is Manon. She is the exact same odds as Islam Makhachev, minus 195. Caitlyn Chikagian plus 165. They lined that fight exactly the same as the main event. This is a tough one. This is a tough one, and just for the sole fact that I said that Chikagian could kind of take it into her realm. I don't love betting favorites against Chikagian just because she can do that. But I think that this might be an exception. I think that Manon Fiorot this is going to be kind of a test for her to see if she can kind of break into that upper echelon of the division. And I'm going to side with the new blood here. And I also just want Manon Fiorot to win just so I can see her kind of in the upper ranks. Chikagian, been there, done that. We kind of see her ceiling of what she has to offer.
I would agree.
So Manon Fiorot for me at the minus 195 price tag. I'm not running to go bet it. But gun to my head, I'm going to go with Fiorot here.
Yeah, I like Fiorot. Her last 2 victories were by decision, but before that, she had 5 TKOs in a row. So she's definitely game to bring the fight to Chikagian. Just so that while you were talking, I did check. Caitlyn Chikagian does not have a finish in the UFC.
Yeah.
She's been finished in the UFC.
Andrade finished her, right? Yeah, I remember Andrade hit her to the body one time.
Andrade finished her. Valentina finished her.
Up there, yep.
And she lost a split decision. She lost 2 split decisions, one to Liz Carmouche, one to Jessica Evil Eye.
Those are horrible split losses.
Exactly. No, I mean, I think if this is a fight that you want to bet, if you feel compelled to bet on the ladies on the card, I think you're wise to put your money behind Manon Fiorot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the output's going to be there. I think the power is going to be there. Even if she does lull her into a point fight, I think the damage and her output are going to be the safe bet here. So here we go.
Is it time? Is it time to talk about the most important fight on the card?
I don't think you're going to like what I have to say.
I already know I'm not going to like what you have to say. And I don't care. All right. Let me first and foremost in a sign of friendship, in a sign of brotherhood, because this is the city of brotherly love, let me give you the Philadelphia salute for what you're about to say right there.
Here we go.
And you go ahead and slander Mr. Brady however you want. We're talking about Bilal Muhammad taking on Sean Brady, Pride of Philadelphia. Go ahead, John. Start us off.
Well, I mean, this is a big fight for Brady, right? Undefeated prospect. This guy has gotten, a lot of publicity. A lot of people are saying that he's, a big up and coming prospect. He has some wins on his resume that have aged really well. That Jake Matthews win in his second to last fight, he got a second round sub, I believe. That has aged really well because Jake Matthews has looked absolutely phenomenal since that fight. Do you have an idea? We'll start it off with who you think the favorite is here, and then I'll break your heart.
I think Vegas is going to put Bilal Muhammad as the favorite.
They got Sean Brady as the favorite.
Do they really?
They do. Minus 135. Bilal Muhammad plus 105. He's the even money price tag.
Interesting.
To keep it short and sweet, I'm going to say that I don't think Bilal and Brady are really great at one thing. I think they're both really well-rounded and good at everything.
Sure.
That's kind of how I would classify them. I actually think they're extremely similar fighters. If they want to wrestle, they'll wrestle. And if they want to keep it on the feet, they can keep it on the feet. I think Bilal Muhammad at plus 105 is going to be an underdog play for me. I know this hurts to say. I haven't seen Brady tested enough at the high level yet at 170 pounds. Khabib Nurmagomedov is going to be in Bilal Muhammad's corner. This is a big fight for Bilal Muhammad, right? He's coming off of wins over Stephen Thompson, Vicente Luque. I mean, top guys in the division at 170. You can't really say the same about Brady. If you're going to give me a plus money price tag on it, you're going to give me a guy who I know isn't going to quit. I don't think Brady's going to be able to get him out of there. And I don't think Brady's going to be able to grapple fuck him like he does with a lot of his opponents. Bilal's a pretty strong dude. And we've seen that in his past couple fights. I just don't know if Brady's going to be able to institute that grappling heavy game plan that saves him in fights. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Bilal Muhammad here, as it does pain me a bit to say it. I'm going to take the plus money here. What's going through your mind right now? Tell me.
Oh, other than pure heartbreak and betrayal, other than that, no, look, I understand it. I get it, right? This is, in a lot of ways, I feel like these guys are kind of fighting in a mirror.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it on the show before. I think if there's one thing that, Sean Brady has not kind of let go of yet, kind of shown yet in the UFC, is he hasn't been a big striker in the UFC, right? I mean, a lot of people when he fought, so he's got two big names that, well, I mean, arguably he's got three big names, but he's got two kind of bigger names that he's fought. Jake Matthews, who that fight's aged well. Jake's proven to be a real tough customer.
Jake did catch him early in that fight.
Jake did catch him, right? And then we go to the Chiesa fight. Chiesa's been around. Chiesa's a tough grappler.
Mm-hmm.
Chiesa looked, I thought, better with the hands towards the end of the fight than maybe Sean did. Now, Sean grapple fucked Chiesa,
which is impressive. Yes.
That's not nothing.
No, it's not.
I get it. I understand the rationale for thinking Bilal Muhammad is the right play, but I think if you reverse engineered that rationale, you could make a legitimately respectable argument to say that Sean Brady is the rational play. This is one of those ones you don't bet with your heart. There's not a snowball's chance in hell I'm betting this fight. So I am speaking strictly from my heart, getting away from what I think is a logical discussion. I mean, these are two tough dudes. I think no matter the outcome, I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be an interesting fight. We'll see if Khabib can sprinkle some magic Russian Sambo dust on Bilal Muhammad and give him the cure-all to beat Sean Brady, who is just Sean Brady is a junkyard dog of a grappler. He is a tough grappler. He's going to look to take you down. He's going to look to grind on you when you're down there. He's going to make you absolutely miserable. You get back to your feet, he's going to look to take you right back down again. My entire heart is with Sean Brady. So there's no point in looking to me for a logical response beyond that. That was the most measured response I can give you about this fight. Thank God it's Tuesday, because by Thursday, I'm going to have dreams and nightmares blasting in the house. I'm going to have a Sixers jersey on and an Eagles hat. I might take a hammer to my ear and cauliflower it up a little bit just in solidarity. Just that's where I'm going to be later on in the week, in case you're wondering. So this is the most measured version of Zach from Philly you're going to get. This is it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I had a feeling that was the route you were going to take here. It's one of those things where I think Bilal also has more paths to victory. I actually think he could institute a little bit of grappling himself, as crazy as that sounds. It's going to come down to either a war of attrition or Bilal's going to tag him up a little bit on the feet. Can Brady institute the grappling, the dominant grappling against a guy like Bilal Muhammad? That's really the question. I don't think he can. I could be wrong. Call me crazy, but I feel pretty confident about Bilal Muhammad here.
I'm going to call you a lot of things. Crazy isn't one of them, but this is a family program, so I'm going to refrain from that.
I knew that this would be tough to hear, but I'm
going to just check your text after the show. That's fine. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can't bet with my heart. If I was betting with my heart, I would be pulling for Sean Brady. I'm just going based off of what I see. I would never lie to the fans, and I would never tell them something different that I wasn't thinking. And for those reasons, I'm going to take the dog here.
I may not like it, John Boy. I may not like it, but because it's honest, because it's thoughtful, I have no choice but to respect it.
Appreciated.
That's all I'm going to say about it. That's all I'm going to say about it. War Brady. I hope he puts Bilal Muhammad in a 6-foot hole. And what's next? What else you want to talk about on this card?
All right. So I only have 2 more fights written down. You can get into all of the Russian fighters that are going to be on this Abu Dhabi card down the prelims, if that's something that, that you fancy, if that's something that gets you going. But 2 other fights that I've got to look forward to. Volkan Oezdemir, Nikita Krylov.
Yeah, right? We're on the same boat there. That's one to look forward to.
That's at light heavyweight. Pretty good fight. Two top 5 guys, top 10 guys, however you look at it at their points in time of fighting. Krylov coming off of a victory over Alexander Gustafsson, and
an absolute watershedding.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those ones though. It's like, how much can we take away from it? Where is Gustafsson at in his career currently? Right. This is a guy who got subbed by Anthony Smith a couple years back. No.
Why do you love to slander Anthony Smith on this program?
I think he put together a hell of a run. He subbed Volkan Oezdemir as well.
He did,
which I did not see coming. So, I mean, Anthony Smith put together a hell of a run, but there just comes a point in time where that perseverance is going to get matched with just a higher skill level. And I just don't think, Anthony Smith possesses the tools when you get into the top 5 of the division, even the top 10. It's hard to say, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is. Who do you like in this one?
You have an idea who the favorite is first?
I think that Oezdemir is the favorite.
Krylov minus 170. Nikita Krylov is the favorite. Volkan Oezdemir plus 140. Wow. This is as straightforward as it goes, though, right? Nikita Krylov is going to do everything in his power to take this fight to the ground. and Volkan Oezdemir is going to do everything in his power to keep this thing on the feet. Oezdemir has been exploited on the ground, though. He has been. We've seen it. We just said the Anthony Smith. We saw what Cormier did. I mean, this is a different level of grappling. But Nikita Krylov's game is grinding you out on the fence and just fighting for takedowns. If Volkan can keep it on the feet, that plus 140, that plus 140 is tempting for me. But I can just see myself at noon on Saturday screaming at my TV for Volkan Oezdemir to get his ass off the canvas. So for those reasons, I'm gonna lean with Nikita Krylov, but I'm not gonna play this fight. This is gonna be a fun one to watch, and somebody who, you know, might make their way up into the top 5 and fight somebody, you know, pretty legitimate, maybe a title shot eventually down the road for one of these guys.
I don't know. I mean, they both have losses to Ankalaev, so we're going to have to see what happens with Ankalaev before we start talking about titles. And I believe Krylov has a loss to Teixeira as well.
But champ, you know, the champ and the future champ.
Yeah, and Oezdemir has a loss to Yuri Prohaska. So these are guys who
are losing to the champs.
Right, exactly. But these are guys who have lost to, you know, one version of a champ, whether it be future, current, or past. So I don't know. I think it might be at least one more cycle of fights before we start talking about putting them in a title contention. I would have thought Oezdemir would have been the favorite, but I would have leaned towards Krylov for the one reason, and we had this discussion last time Oezdemir fought. I leaned towards Paul Craig. You said no way, Oezdemir all the way. Oezdemir did win a decision after being in some severe danger from the guard pulling bear Jew that is Paul Craig. I think Krylov is just going to grind him a lot harder than Paul Craig did.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right, with Paul Craig is he doesn't really have a grappling resume in terms of wrestling, right? He can't take you down to the ground. He's a type of guy who's going to pull guard. He's going to try and make you make a bonehead decision, a low IQ move, which guys have done. Ankalaev did it.
A lot of guys have done
it. What's his name did it? One of my favorite guys at light heavyweight, Hill. I was very heavy on Hill for that fight, so that was absolutely hard to watch. But Nikita Krylov, has a legitimate offensive wrestling prowess. Like he will force clinch, he will force cage work, he will advance, he will come forward, and he will try and put you on your ass. I think that he has a path to victory here, but Volkan Oezdemir could sleep anybody at any given time. But it comes down to the more tools to get the job done. And for those reasons.
Did you see they booked the next Paul Craig fight?
Yes, I did. Johnny Walker, correct?
Yeah, Johnny Walker in January.
Talk about a low IQ fighter too, right? I mean, that's
gonna be. I can't wait for. I'm already looking forward to our New Year's episode where we talk about that one.
That's an interesting fight, man. That's a head scratcher one. It could really go either way.
Yeah, that is an interesting one. What else you got on this card that you like? What else you want to talk about?
I only have one more fight circled just because I'm a Caio Borralho fan. I think he's really, really good. He's fighting Mahmoud Muradov, who is actually first ever fighter to fight under Floyd Mayweather and the Money Team promotion.
Yeah.
He was an undefeated fighter, massive prospect. And then sure enough, he gets subbed in his last outing by the savvy vet, Gerald Mearshart. That kind of took the wind out of his sails. Caio Borralho, legit guy. Legit guy. Big fan of his. He was in Paulo Costa's camp. He's been making a name for himself. I'm pretty sure he was a Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series guy. I won't ask you who the favorite is here because it's Borralho. It's a good fight. Makhmed Muradov at plus 160 is tempting based on the number alone. But he does tend to fade late. And I think Caio has the gas tank to deal with it. So I'm going to go with Borralho here. It's more of just a fight to watch. as the winner of this fight is somebody who could potentially make some noise down the road. And for those reasons, that's why I bring it up. But other than that, I don't really have a hard lean on it.
No, I think that's fair. I'm with you. I like Barallo on this one. But I think it could be an interesting fight. Could be a fun fight. A lot of close, as far as as far as the money lines go, a lot of close fights on this card.
Yeah. No, there really isn't any wide favorites until you get to the bottom of the card. I know Muhammad Makhachev is on the card. He's like one of the youngest. I think he's 21 years old, up and coming guy who a lot of people say is the next big thing. He's minus 1,200, big favorite, fighting
Malcolm X Gordon,
which is, I'm not sure why or what commission approved that, but that fight really shouldn't be happening. Makhachev should make extremely easy work of Gordon. He's definitely, if you're playing DraftKings, Makhachev's like one of the free squares. If you're playing bingo, it's a free square. Makhachev's going to absolutely just like a hot knife through butter. But no, you're right. The card, I think that's what makes it so great, right? It's just, we don't know what's going to happen. The lines are tight. There's not a ton of mismatches. You can make an argument the O'Malley Yan one is, but the line doesn't necessarily constitute that, which is interesting. Right. But yeah, man, I am absolutely stoked for this card. I'm so happy that it's an early morning card too. To wake up to this violence.
Yeah, this is going to be beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful and a hell of a fight card to come back on too.
Yeah. This is going to be a good one. This is exciting. This is good stuff. I'm excited for it. So I know we got some news to talk about. Little bit of goings on in the UFC world. Did you see who Aljo is hanging out with in anticipation of this fight card? You see who he's
here we go.
With?
Here we go.
Hanging out with Top G.
Top G himself, yes.
Banned from every social media platform in existence. Top G, Andrew Tate.
Yes, sir. They were hanging out. He posted something on IG. And believe it or not, MMA Twitter took the bait and they are outraged as usual, because you got to be. Oh, yeah. What do they say, right? I'm bored. You're outraged. Let's get a little hype about it. But what's your opinion on this? I got to hear your take on this.
I mean, look, my take is a fairly basic one. I'm not a Top G guy at all. I think if you listen to enough episodes of this, you probably could have guessed that.
Really? I would have never thought that.
Yeah, I know. It's surprising to know that I'm not in the Top G camp. I'm not in the Andrew Tate camp. Look, the general alpha bro sell that he does, it doesn't really move the needle for me one way or the other. I don't give a shit about it. I don't like it. I think that it is a gimmick. I think that it's a game. And I think that Tate is capitalizing where a lot of guys have capitalized on this sort of alpha bro mentality. And they're selling it to dudes who are desperate for a personality. You can find those guys at your local watering hole watching UFC fights. After that, they're going to tell you, they'll start out with soft play. They'll tell you got to read David Goggins' book. And you're like, okay, cool. Then they're going to want to talk to you about Joe Rogan. And you're like, all right, that's fine. I get it. And then after a couple of soda pops, they're going to start to pop off with Top G. They'll probably softball it in for you with some Jordan Peterson or some Ben Shapiro. Then you got to talk about Andrew Tate. And then eventually you're down a rabbit hole and they're telling you why Elliot Hulse is absolutely right. And your wife needs to be subservient to you. And you're not a real man if you don't have a woman at home who's barefoot and pregnant. And it's like, I can't rock with these dudes, man. I can't, look, there's nothing wrong with being who you are. If you're a traditionally masculine dude and you like to hunt and you like to drink some beer and that's how you live, that's fine, man. To each his own. These guys who are, I think, snake oil salesmen who are trying to sell you the secret to the alpha mentality. I think there's a lot of rich irony in that. I think that that's a really interesting, ironic play. Being that truly, I mean, if you were truly an alpha male, you probably wouldn't need to take life advice from somebody who calls themselves top G. So yeah, I'm not an Andrew Tate guy. That being said, I don't really give a flying fuck that Aljo is hanging out with him. I can find better reasons to not be an Aljamain Sterling fan than that. How do you feel about it?
I mean, it's one of those things where like you said, I could really give two shits who you're hanging out with. I'm not defending Andrew Tate in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the outrage is a little bit, I don't know. I never got on board with the outrage takes on anything. Usually when everybody's outraged about something, it's cool to be outraged about it, right? And if you support it, then you're the villain. I understand how that type of stuff can, take form. But yeah, I could give two shits that he took a picture with him. I'm not in that camp whatsoever. A lot of fighters came to the comment section, were in support of it as well. So are we going to vilify people based on, their association? I was never somebody who did that, so I'm not going to do that here. But like you said, I could find way worse what reasons to not support Aljamain Sterling than that.
Here's the thing. I'll vilify you.
Okay.
Based on your association.
Okay.
Sure, I'll do that. But I find it arguably more problematic, that the Nurmagomedovs have been tied to Chechen warlords, right? I mean, that's, it's the, here's the thing, and here's why I'm not gonna go full outrage on it. At the end of the day, what Andrew Tate does is espouse words. Are they words that I agree with or support? Fuck no, absolutely not. I think 90% of what he says is drivel, and I think 10% of what he says crosses that imaginary line. And obviously the 10% that crosses that line is what's got him banned from TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I think that hopping on the outrage camp is exactly what drives the market. That is what drives the market, right? This is the easiest con to figure out. If you're Andrew Tate, you 90% of this is these alpha male takes, this, fighter alpha mentality, this lone wolf. I don't, what's the other one? There's another one. It's if you're better than an alpha, what is it? A gamma male, a zeta male? I don't know. The Greek lettering.
I'm not that well versed in the
no, I know there's another one, an Omega Man, maybe. I don't know. Whatever Greek letter you've associated yourself with, right? You say things, you say just enough to get outrage from the general public.
Yeah.
Which then makes the guys who wanted to support your alpha bro, whatever, it used to be On It, right? It used to be Alpha Brain from On It was like the big one. But now the outrage market is what drives your audience.
Yeah.
Now it drives it. So the outrage is exactly what keeps Andrew Tate in business. The only interesting, and this is completely unrelated, but I've never had a platform to really point this out on. The people who hate Andrew Tate are also the same people who hate Jordan Peterson, are also the same people who hate Ben Shapiro. And I'll say, just because I keep it real with our fans and I keep it honest, and I'm a fan of none of the three. I give very little thought to any of the three, except I am a student of the human condition, and I've made this observation. If you disagree with this take, you let me know in the comments. But if we were going to call these guys all sort of bastions of the right, maybe bastions of the far right, if you look at the associated groups, forget about that for a second, because that's ancillary to my point. These guys are all, at least in their own minds and in the minds of others, deep thinkers, right?
Okay.
One degree or the other. they all have one thing in common. And I want you to listen to a clip from all three this week and notice it.
Mm-hmm.
They over enunciate every word they say. That is only an observation of the human condition. They
Give me an example.
All right. If you watch an Andrew Tate video, right? You know, I'm Andrew Tate here. I'm top G. I got my headphones on. My head is shaved. I got a nice tan and cool sunglasses on. He talks like this. You are to make your woman subservient to you. I go home and I tell my girlfriend I have cheated on you with another woman. What is she going to do? She's going to leave me? She will not leave me, right? Now, watch a Jordan Peterson video, watch a Ben Shapiro video. They enunciate the same way. I think, truthfully, I think Shapiro was the first one to figure that out, that over enunciation. And the reason I think he figured that out is because he is stealing, our fans may not know this, in addition to being just an absolute madman for the fights. I also spent some time on the debate team in my life. That over enunciation exists in one place without question, and it is in a style of debate known as Lincoln Douglas. If you ever have an opportunity to take a weekend off from the UFC, go to a high school or college debate tournament, go to the room where the Lincoln Douglas debate is happening and listen to them. They speak fast and they over enunciate every word. I believe, but I could be wrong, Ben Shapiro comes from that background. And so naturally, that is how he developed his manner of speaking. And as I watch now, the lesser versions of that, they all do that same trick where they over enunciate their words. That's all. Just as a student of the human condition.
I mean, I think people over the course of discourse with big platforms are going to over enunciate. I don't know if that's just applicable to one left side or one right side. I think that's something that you're going to commonly find. I'm more of a substance of speaking than more so the enunciation and kind of how it is communicated. I understand that might be a common theme. I don't know how much I would look into it, and I don't know how much that would necessarily sway my thought. It would be more so kind of the substance of what they're talking about. It's an interesting pickup. I think there are a lot of people that do that on both sides. I think there are very successful people that you yourself would admire and like that over enunciate just a tad bit as well.
I admire nobody, John Boy, except you.
Do I over enunciate?
No, you don't.
Oh, God damn it.
Neither one of us does. We're common man. We're working man. We're blue collar boys. We don't over enunciate. We speak the common tongue.
I mean, I'm not going to go on the bash party. I understand what you're saying. There are some you can pick out what you want to take from it, and you can use it to your best ability, right? If you're not hurting anybody, I don't really give a fuck. It's more of take what works for you and apply it, right? It's the adaptability of situations and kind of how it's applicable to you. I like to not throw rocks in a glass house, and I think that I think a lot of people live in glass houses. So that's my 2 cents. I don't like to pour it on because it's cool to pour it on. That's just kind of my thought process. That's all I'm saying.
I want to just circle back. My point about the enunciation has zero to do with what side any of these camps are on, and more so the question of the human condition. Do people tune in more if they hear you over enunciating? Do they associate that more with intelligence, regardless of the side? And so anybody listening, you can do that thought experiment on your own.
Yeah, no, I mean, it might not be associated essentially with intelligence, but it just might be a more digestible form of communication. Maybe it's an easier way for the general public to understand it, interpret it. However you want to dissect how people take in dialogue better. I agree with some stuff. I disagree with other stuff. It's not an endorsement or a hate of anybody. That's all I'll say before I get attacked by the Twitter mob and am absolutely crucified for having an opinion that's, objectively not with the masses, because I know that
And
that's not.
That's Sure Pick 6. Is that?
I know that's not a very acceptable thing to do. Usually it should be. It's right. It's the Twitter.
That's at JSure6.
Yeah, if you want to come and pour it on and absolutely vilify me for having, a different opinion than the masses, because usually we know the masses are usually correct, right? There's never been a time where the masses have misinterpreted something, but yeah, I didn't know we were going to go that route, but I'll be happy to debate it. If there's any, drop some comments. If you want to throw some hate speech into Twitter, let me know. We'll be here.
You can find us easy on social media.
Yep.
Being mindful, neither of us have endorsed a position. Just, feel free. If you're going to attack either of us, tag the other one so the other one can enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to have two sides of the spectrum attacking the other one, which is a little bit,
absolutely, and
which
that's,
is fun.
Look, that's what fuels us, right? I mean, that's, in the same way it fuels us to watch fights.
I'm all for open dialogue, right? I love good conversation. I don't like turning off avenues of expressing yourself, even if it's extremely wrong. I'm a big believer in free speech, and that's kind of my standpoint on that. No matter the shit that you say is stupid, we have to, we have to interpret the difference between the two, right? So maybe it helps to see the extremely deliberate ignorance in the world. I think it's a good thing to kind of bring that to light sometimes. So don't turn it off. I'm all for open dialogue, and that's basically my stance on that.
Fair enough. And I think that is the absolute correct stance, John Boy. No more gambling if you're a UFC fighter? What's up?
Yeah, that's a little interesting. I don't know the nuts and bolts into what went into that decision.
I assume this means that you are not going to sign a 3-fight deal with the UFC now.
No, absolutely not. But this is the thing that, like, I don't really, I can't really deviate between the two, because you're telling me that you can't have somebody in your camp place a bet for you. Like, the practicality of it just seems a little bit ridiculous. For example, this is kind of how I thought of it, right? Like, Full Send bets on fighters, right? They bet on Tai Tuivasa, they bet on Sean O'Malley. Yes, the fighter isn't per se betting on themselves, but I feel like if they wanted to, they could. I don't know I guess now there obviously is going to be legal ramifications for that, and they'll be launching investigations and so forth. So there definitely is a deterrent. But as long as you're betting on yourself, in my opinion, as long as you are betting on yourself to win, I have absolutely no problem with it. That would be my stance.
That's another place I'd love for the fans, and more so than anything else we've discussed. I'd love to hear the fans' thoughts on that one. Because I get it. On one hand, I understand it, right? Like, it's probably just not a good look to have trainers, coaches, fighters betting on MMA fights. It seems a bit inside baseball. But on the other hand, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you want to bet on yourself to bring home the victory, why can't you? But the other problem is, how much damage was done to the reputation of boxing because of gambling and fixed fights and all that other happy horse shit.
Yeah, but that's a different argument entirely, though, right? That's not boxers betting on themselves and losing. That's people boxers calling them up. Yeah, boxers taking a dive, but that's not that wouldn't fall under the legal terminology of gambling on yourself. That would just be fixing a fight.
Sure, it would be fixing a fight, but I guess, you don't want to have people betting on themselves and then have some sort of discussion as, was this a fixed fight?
Why would you bet on yourself if it was a fixed fight? You're not fixing the fight if you're betting on yourself, right?
Unless the other guy is the one taking a dive.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant, really, right? That would fall more so along the lines of the other fighter. You winning a fight is going to boost your career. It's going to boost your pay. You're going to get double your pay for winning too. right? So maybe you're not betting on yourself, but there is going to be financial gain to be had. That's out of your hands if somebody else throws a fight. You're not paying him to throw the fight. You're merely betting on yourself to win the fight.
It's an interesting question.
I feel very strongly about that.
I can tell. This is emboldened you.
Yeah, no, I do. I think your life is merely you betting on yourself. So if it comes from financial gain and you have the cojones to put up the money, then why not be able to bet on yourself? You have to bet on other people.
Much risk, much reward.
Yeah, I don't like that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, sound off in the comments to the legions, the millions. I mean, millions of 10-8 fans.
Yeah.
Sound off in the comments. Let us know. How do you feel about it? Does Ilia Topuria have a fight yet?
It doesn't seem like a lot of people. Here's one thing I'll say, right? Because we don't know behind the scenes. We don't know what goes on behind the scenes. It just seems like every single fight involving him starts to fall. Just it falls apart.
Yeah.
In my opinion, he's probably the toughest fight at 155. I really do. I think it's kind of one of those positions where there's really not a lot to gain from it because he doesn't really have a high ranking yet. He's one of those like lower in the rank dark horse type of people.
Yeah.
I did see that a fight with Dan Ige is possibly on the horizon. That would be a fun one. That would be an interesting fight. One. Yeah, and that would make sense too in terms of rankings and quality of competition. I'm an Ilia Topuria truther.
Yeah, you are.
So I will probably ride with him, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm gonna back Topuria, but I'd watch that Ige fight. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'd watch that. I'd absolutely watch that without hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anything else to talk about, John Boy?
I think we just about did it, man.
Well then, it's been a few weeks. Let me see if I still remember how to do this here. Everybody, call your mother. Tell her you love her, because we out.
Top G out. Peace.
Fuck.